The city was still asleep when the sky turned red. No one expected the alarms to scream so early, and no one believed they were real until the clouds cracked open with fire. It wasn't a warning. It was the beginning of war. Marcus stood at the bakery window, flour on his hands, watching pieces of metal fall from the sky like cursed rain. His fingers trembled, not from fear, but from disbelief. He was never trained to fight. He only knew how to knead dough and mix cinnamon rolls. The streets outside were chaos. Hover cars slammed into buildings. Screams filled the air. Then came the deep, strange hum like something alive. The sky tore wider. Through it, black ships poured out, shaped like blades, hunting for blood. No one had ever seen the Jarnak before, not even the satellites. They weren't just alien. They were monsters with skin like bone and eyes that pulsed like dying stars. They didn't speak. They didn't pause. They landed in the center of the city and started killing. The government collapsed in less than 3 hours. Soldiers were vaporized. Command posts reduced to ash. Nothing stopped the Jarnak. Their warriors were tall, armored, and vicious. They used weapons that twisted gravity and made bones scream. Marcus didn't run. He didn't know why. Maybe his mind hadn't caught up. Maybe it was something else. But when a child cried behind him and the Jarnak turned toward the sound, Marcus grabbed a pan from his shop and stepped outside. He stood between the creature and the child. The Jarnak laughed. Their champion was over 8 feet tall, its voice like shattering glass. Its claws dripped with red. But Marcus held his pan steady, lips tight, eyes locked on the beast. The creature lunged, and Marcus did something no one expected. He moved. Fast. Too fast. He ducked under the strike and slammed the pan into the beast's knee. There was a crunch, a roar, a stumble. The arena, the street, went silent. The Jarnak stared. So did the humans. Marcus stared too. The pan bent. The champion screamed. And then, in a blur of broken instinct, Marcus grabbed the beast's arm, twisted, and snapped it in two. The child ran. The alien howled. Marcus didn't breathe. He didn't think. He moved again. A kick to the chest. A knee to the skull. A final roar of rage, and Marcus brought the full weight of his body down on the champion's neck. It broke. Just like that. The ground shook. The Jarnak stepped back. Their champion lay still. The war had started just hours ago. And now, for the first time, the monsters hesitated. Marcus stood there, chest heaving, hands trembling. His apron soaked in alien blood. He looked down at his own soft hands. The same hands that had shaped bread hours ago. Now they were stained with the death of a monster. The silence shattered. The crowd roared. A camera drone caught everything. Across the planet, every screen lit up. Every frightened face saw one thing: a baker with soft hands, standing over a dead champion. It changed something. It didn't end the war. But it ignited something older. Something buried deep in humanity's blood. Hope. And far above, aboard the lead Jarnak mothership, a new command was given. Not to kill Marcus. No. They wanted him taken alive. They had questions. And one of them echoed across the ship's black walls. What is this human? Asterisk. Marcus sat on the floor of the armored transport, hands chained, eyes focused straight ahead. Around him, 6 alien guards stood silent, their armor buzzing faintly. He could feel the hum through his boots, through his bones, like the machine itself was angry to carry him. The chains were strange. They weren't made of metal, but something soft that felt alive. It moved with him, tightened when he breathed too deep. He didn't struggle. He had nothing to prove. Not now. The attack hadn't stopped. Cities continued to burn. Humans were dying by the thousands. But the moment Marcus snapped the Jarnak champion's neck, the war shifted. They didn't see him as a threat. They saw him as something worse and unknown. Across the galaxy, in the vast rings of the Jarnak Empire, warlords shouted at each other through projection walls. Some demanded Marcus be executed, others called him a relic. But a few, the oldest among them, remembered a word lost to time: Earthbreaker. It was a legend. A warning buried in ancient Jarnak code. A human with no weapon, only will. A being whose hands were soft until they weren't. Until they shattered everything. Until their kindness turned to fury. Until their silence became violence. Now Marcus was chained, but he wasn't afraid. He listened to the hum. He closed his eyes. He remembered the sound of dough slapping against the wooden table. The smell of bread. He held those memories tight, like armor. The transport docked with the mothership. The walls hissed open. A red-skinned alien stepped inside, taller than the others, eyes cold and sharp like broken ice. She wore no armor. She didn't need it. Her name was Valori, first of blades. She studied Marcus without speaking. Then she raised one hand. The guards stepped back. One pressed a command and the chains released. Marcus stood slowly, meeting her gaze. The room felt heavier now, like the ship itself was watching. Valori didn't blink. She moved close, a single hand brushing his shoulder. She spoke in perfect English, but her voice sounded ancient, like it had traveled through 1,000 wars to reach him. You are soft. But soft things bend, and when they snap, they destroy. Why are you still calm? Marcus didn't answer, not with words. He looked at her hand on his shoulder, then down at his own. Then he turned and walked forward. The guards moved to stop him, but Valori raised her hand again. Let him walk, she said. The corridor ahead was long and curved, with glowing red lines and shadowed walls. Marcus walked slowly. His mind scanned everything. No plan, just instinct. He felt watched, not just by cameras, by something older. The Jarnak had no humans aboard. Only corpses from the cities below. Yet none of them had touched Marcus. They didn't understand him. And what they didn't understand, they feared. In the center of the ship was a chamber, circular, silent, a pit ringed by alien nobles. Valori followed Marcus there and pointed to the center. Stand there, she ordered. Face our new champion. The floor trembled. A wall opened. The new champion stepped out. He was massive, 10 feet tall, covered in spiked obsidian armor. His arms were like hammers. His face was hidden behind a cracked black mask. He didn't speak, Valori whispered. This is your punishment. Survive, and we listen. Die, and we erase your kind. Marcus took a deep breath. The crowd chanted. The champion roared. And Marcus stepped forward with soft hands, not to fight, but to end something before it ever began. Asterisk, the crowd watched in silence. As Marcus stepped into the center of the arena, he had no armor, no blade. Just his body and 2 hands that still carried the memory of baking bread. The Jarnak champion moved first. Each footstep shook the floor. His body was wrapped in shadow metal that hissed with dark energy. His fists clenched. One strike from him could shatter a wall. Marcus didn't move. Not yet. He tilted his head slightly, studying the champion's movements. There was power, yes, but it was all weight. All rage, no control, no focus. The champion charged. A blur of black metal. The crowd roared. Valori leaned forward in her seat, lips parted, eyes burning with interest. She had seen thousands of fights, but never a human like this. At the last moment, Marcus moved. He stepped aside, graceful as water. The champion's punch missed by inches and struck the stone floor. It cracked. Dust exploded into the air. Marcus grabbed the champion's arm. Not to wrestle, to guide it. He twisted gently, letting the momentum carry the alien forward. The giant stumbled. The arena gasped. The champion spun around in fury. His elbow came down like a hammer. Marcus raised both hands and caught it. For a second, the impact was silent. Then a sharp crack filled the chamber. As the alien's elbow twisted backward, he howled in rage. His other hand shot toward Marcus's neck. Marcus ducked low and drove his knee into the side of the alien's leg. Another crack. Another scream. 2 strikes. 2 breaks. Valari stood from her throne. The nobles whispered in disbelief. Marcus had not spoken a single word, but his body told a story that Jarnak could no longer ignore. The champion staggered. Blood dripped from his armor. He raised one final punch. Marcus stepped inside the swing. He didn't block. He didn't dodge. He embraced the hit, letting it graze past his ribs. And then he struck. One fist. Not wild. Not loud. Just direct. Into the center of the chest. The armor caved inward. The champion dropped to his knees, gasping, unable to breathe. Marcus placed one hand on the alien's shoulder. You feel that? He said quietly. That's your center breaking. He pushed. The champion fell backward and did not rise again. Silence followed. The kind that grips bone. Then came the sound of metal hitting the floor. Valari had dropped her blade. Across the galaxy, the footage broadcast instantly. The Jarnak, proud and cruel, were forced to see their best fall to a soft-handed human. Panic began to ripple through their command circles. Marcus didn't wait for cheers. He turned his back to the body and walked toward the exit. Guards moved to stop him. Valari raised her hand. No one dared challenge her command. She watched him walk away, her heart racing. Her mind was at war with itself. Who was this man? What kind of world forged something like him? She needed answers. But more than that, she needed to understand the force inside him. Marcus stopped once at the gate. He didn't look back. He simply said 5 words. I'm not done with you. Then he vanished into the shadows of the corridor as the arena held its breath. Marcus walked down the narrow corridor of the Jarnak mothership. The walls pulsed with a strange blue light, like veins in a living creature. He didn't know where he was going, but his body led him as if it had already memorized the path. The guards didn't stop him now. They stood back, tense, watching. Each of them had seen what he did in the arena. He had not shouted. He had not celebrated. He had simply ended a warrior made for killing. In a control room above, Valari stood before a wall of projections. They showed riots on conquered human colonies, protests among Jarnak citizens, fear spreading like wildfire. One human had done what thousands could not. A general approached her. His armor bore the sigils of 10 battles. He bowed slightly and whispered, "Do we kill him now, or study him first?" Valari did not turn. She kept her eyes on the screen where Marcus's face filled the center. She spoke calmly. "If we kill him, we lose more than a body. We lose the mystery. We lose the fear." Marcus reached a sealed door. His hand hovered near the surface. The door read his pulse, his heat, his presence. Then it slid open without a sound. Inside was not a prison. It was a chamber filled with strange machinery and a single stasis pod. Floating inside the glass was a human girl. Her skin was pale, her body still. Her eyes closed like she was dreaming. Marcus stepped forward slowly, his breath caught. He didn't know her, yet something in him recognized the shape of her pain. A mirror of what he had buried. The label on the pod read in Jarnak script, Subject 12. Human weapon test. The girl's heart monitor beeped softly. She was alive, barely. Marcus reached out and touched the glass. It was cold, and yet the moment he touched it, the pod reacted. The girl's eyelids twitched. Behind him, the door slid open. Valari entered alone. She watched Marcus for a long moment before she spoke. "She's what your kind was meant to become. Broken, rebuilt, molded to serve." Marcus didn't move. He didn't speak, but the anger in his shoulders was clear. Valari noticed. "You broke our champion. You destroyed our arena. "But this is not a battle you can win with fists," she said. Marcus turned to face her. His voice was calm but sharp. "Then I'll use something stronger." Valari raised an eyebrow. "And what is that?" Marcus walked past her, heading for the exit. His voice didn't rise. He didn't threaten. He simply left a truth in the air thick enough to burn: hope. Valari remained in the room, her gaze shifting between the girl in the pod and the door Marcus had walked through. For the first time in her long command, she felt something she had never tasted: uncertainty. Outside the chamber, Marcus moved fast. He didn't know how much time he had. But he knew one thing now. He wasn't the only one the Jarnak feared. And he would not leave her behind. Marcus moved through the ship like he had walked it 1,000 times. Each step was silent, each turn calculated. He had no map, no guide, but something in him had changed. He no longer felt like a prisoner. He felt like a storm. The guards didn't confront him. They pretended not to notice. Some turned their backs. Others whispered his name, not with hate, but with confusion. With fear. A soft-handed human was not supposed to move like a weapon. He reached the engineering deck. Pipes hissed. Blue energy surged through the walls. In the center was a control station guarded by 2 Jarnak soldiers. They blocked the entrance with heavy plasma spears. Marcus walked straight toward them. The guards shifted their stances, unsure if they should attack or salute. Before they could decide, Marcus stopped a few feet away and raised both hands slowly. "I'm not here to fight." "You," he said. The guards held their ground. One of them activated his spear. The air sizzled with heat. Marcus didn't flinch. He looked the guard directly in the eyes and spoke again. "I'm here for the girl. You know she doesn't belong here." The guards didn't answer. But something in Marcus's tone made them hesitate. One of them stepped aside. The other lowered his weapon. Without another word, they let him pass. Inside, Marcus found the pod's life support tied into the ship's core. If he removed her now, she would die. The system was designed that way. A trap of wires, signals, and energy drains. Marcus didn't panic. He studied the display. He traced each connection. His hands, once used to shape bread, moved like they had always known how to reshape machines. Soft hands did not mean weak. Minds, he found the overload point. A valve hidden behind 3 locked panels. One by one, he opened them with bare hands. One wire shocked him. Another drew blood. He didn't stop. Alarms started flashing. Somewhere deep in the ship, someone had noticed. Marcus reached the final switch. The countdown began. 40 seconds before the chamber collapsed. The girl's body jolted in the pod. He ripped the main connector free. The lights dimmed. The hum stopped. For one long second, the entire ship held its breath. Then the glass around the pod cracked and fell away. She gasped. Her eyes opened wide. She blinked. Slowly, confused. Marcus caught her before she could fall. Her skin was freezing. Her pulse was weak. But she was alive. "It's okay," he whispered. "You're safe now." She stared at him, not understanding the words. But her fingers curled around his shirt. That was enough. Behind him, the door slammed open. Valari stepped in, sword drawn. Eyes wild. She didn't shout. She didn't threaten. She just stood there, breathing hard, watching the scene unfold. Marcus met her gaze. He held the girl in his arms, steady and calm. Valari looked at him, at the child, and then slowly lowered her blade. "You don't stop," she said. "No," Marcus replied. Valari turned and walked away without a word. The door closed behind her. For the first time, she had chosen not to fight. Marcus looked down at the girl. She was breathing better now. Her eyes fluttered closed again, but not from pain. From peace. He stood up and carried her toward the docking bay. The war wasn't over, but something had shifted. Not just in the Jarnak. In the universe itself. The hangar was quiet when Marcus entered, carrying the girl in his arms. The ship around him buzzed with warning lights, alarms blinking red, but no one moved to stop him. The pilots had fled. The ground crew hid behind crates and force fields. They had seen the footage. They knew who walked among them now. The human who broke a champion. The man who made Villari lower her sword. Marcus reached the launch pad. A small shuttle sat prepped but sealed. He laid the girl gently on the metal floor and worked quickly. The controls were alien, but their logic was not. Machines were machines. They responded to will. He powered up the ship. Fuel lines glowed. The hatch hissed open. Then came a voice behind him, firm and cold. "You're not going alone." Marcus turned. Villari stood at the edge of the ramp, her face unreadable. She no longer carried her blade. Instead, she held a data core. Black. Sealed. Ancient. "I saw your file," she said. "You were not trained for this. You were not created for this." Marcus nodded once, "And yet, I'm still here." Villari stepped aboard the shuttle. She didn't ask permission. She placed the core beside the girl, then sat across from Marcus. The door sealed behind them. "Inside this core is the truth," she said, "about the Jarnak. About Earth. About why we were always afraid of you." Marcus stared at the core. Its surface shimmered. Whatever it contained, it had weight. Not just in metal. In history, he didn't ask what changed her mind. He didn't need to. She was no longer here as a commander. She was here as a witness. The shuttle lifted from the bay. No ships fired. No guards moved. The hangar watched in silence as the human. And the girl vanished into the stars, with their former enemy beside them. Far below, Earth still burned in places. But sparks of resistance were rising, inspired by the arena, by the footage, by the story of one man with soft hands who refused to kneel. Villari broke the silence first. "You are not like the others." Marcus looked out the window. Stars blurred past. The girl's breathing had steadied. She was resting now. "Safe." "No," he said. "I'm not." Villari's eyes narrowed. "What are you?" Marcus didn't answer. Instead, he reached out and took the core, pressing it close to his chest. His hands were calm, steady, but beneath the surface, something ancient stirred again. He wasn't a weapon. He wasn't a hero. He was human. And that was enough to break an empire. The shuttle entered Earth's atmosphere like a silent comet. Fire traced its path across the sky, but no defense system fired. Every satellite already recognized its signal. They had been watching. Waiting. Marcus landed near the ruins of a broken city. Smoke still rose from the bones of fallen towers. Survivors crawled from shelters, blinking against the sudden light. They saw the ship and held their breath. The hatch opened. Marcus stepped out first, his shirt torn, arms marked by bruises and scars. Behind him walked Villari, her head held high, the Jarnak sigils burned from her armor. Then came the girl, walking slowly, clutching his hand. The people didn't cheer. Not yet. They watched in silence. The footage from the arena had spread, but rumors were still stronger than hope. Until they saw the girl smile. One by one, they stepped forward. Children, elders, soldiers without commanders. And then finally, someone called out his name, Marcus. That single voice turned into many. Marcus stood still as they gathered around him. He didn't raise his fists. He didn't speak of war. He simply placed the ancient data core in the hands of a nearby technician. "Show the world," he said. "Inside." That core was the truth Villari had promised. Proof of the Jarnak's fear, their plans, their history, their lies. And more importantly, the reason they always tried to keep humans weak. Earth broadcasted it across every screen, every station. And for the first time since the invasion began, the galaxy didn't look at Earth with hunger. It looked with hesitation, Back in the crowd, Valari watched the faces. Some stared at her with distrust, others with awe. She did not flinch. She stood beside Marcus, not as a prisoner, but as someone who had chosen her place. Later that night, around a fire built from shattered metal, Marcus sat with the girl in his arms. She had no name yet, no memory, but she was healing. Slowly, steadily, Valari approached quietly. She sat across from him and spoke with a low voice. "The Empire will come again. They always do." Marcus nodded. "Then they'll find something." Waiting. Valari studied him for a moment, then asked the question that had burned in her since the arena. "How did you do it? You were not built for this. You were not trained. Your hands were soft." Marcus looked down at his palms. The scars were healing. The calluses had changed. Not from war, but from choice. "I never needed to be strong to break them," he said. "I just needed to care more than they ever could." Valari didn't reply. She simply bowed her head slightly. She understood now. The fire crackled. The stars above blinked slowly. Earth was no longer silent. It was watching. And so was the galaxy. And the man they once mocked for his soft hands had become the symbol of something unbreakable: humanity.